Hello, and welcome back to Midwest Charge. You join me in Cincinnati, Ohio? Let me check. Westchester, Ohio, right off of Interstate 75, at a small four-stall charging site run by a company called Innovatures, something like that. Innovatures, I'm not totally sure. This is the only charging site they have. As far as I can tell, they're just a little independent operator, but we've got a whole bunch of really interesting hardware here. We have four ABB Terra 184s, we have two ABB Terra 184s with 4 ports total, CCS on all 4, and each plug is rated for 180 kilowatts, although, asterisk, they did the thing that a lot of people do, where they spec'd an ABB Terra 184 at high power, but with 200 amp cables. So a lot of 400 volt vehicles, like Tesla or Ford or other brands, are not going to be able to leverage that 180 kilowatt maximum. Most of them are going to get somewhere in the 80 kilowatt range, unless you have something like a Lucid or a Hyundai, Kia, Genesis vehicle, or even, I guess, technically a Cybertruck. Yeah, a Cybertruck would be able to charge at 180 kilowatts here. But aside from those exceptions, for most people, it's going to be 80, maybe 90 kilowatt charging if you have a higher voltage 500 volt car. Looking around, we have a Popeyes, a Wendy's, a Dunkin' Donuts, and a Bob Evans all within walking distance here. This is a really interesting location, actually. It's less than a quarter mile off the highway. I can see the highway exits from where I'm sitting in the car here. Or if you're standing right outside the car, you can pretty much see the highway exits. It is extremely close to everything. There are tons and tons of places to stop and eat around here. Like I said, the 4 that I listed before, the Popeyes, Wendy's, Dunkin' Donuts, and Bob Evans, are probably the only ones that you want to walk to. But again, there are many, many options around here. This is quite a densely populated area. There's actually a Jack in the Box right across the street here. So as far as amenities go, I mean, food, solid. As far as restroom access goes, you'd probably have to walk into one of those restaurants, so your mileage may vary. But for just a quick highway stop to grab some food and continue on, it seems like a pretty decent stop. Unfortunately, there is some more bad news on the charging front. While it is really only about 80 kilowatts for 400 volt vehicles, the pricing is also a little bit on the steep side. It is 56 cents per kilowatt hour, which is not the end of the world. I think it's a few cents cheaper than Electrify America without a membership and some of the EVgo highway side charging sites here in Ohio. But 56 cents per kilowatt hour is on the higher side. Most of the Tesla superchargers in this area are high 30, maybe low 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Same thing for Iona. Those chargers around here are high 30, low 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, those stations, I know for sure, are in a bit of a beta testing type phase. So they are giving people a discounted charge rate that will require a subscription in the future. So you'll probably see high 40 to low 50 cents per kilowatt hour from Iona, but that is still less expensive than this site here. As far as other amenities go at this charging station, there are no canopies, there is no special lighting or anything that lights up the area at night, so charging here at night may not feel like the best situation. The area around it looks fine, but some people equate the brightness of an area with its safety, and for good reason. But unfortunately, there are no street lights or lamps or anything that illuminates this charging park here, if you will. One other downside of this charging spot here is it seems like the cables have seen better days. A few of the cables have like the rubber boot missing off of the CCS latches. It looks like 1 or 2 of them has an issue with cracked handles. One of them actually is missing a bunch of plastic around the lower DC pins, which is not amazing. So these are all still technically functional. If you plug them into your car, you will get power, but the handles are in various states of disrepair. Anyway, thanks for making this charge stop with me, and we are going to move on to our next location. All right, we have arrived in, Mason, Ohio, because this is the location of a Lincoln Electric office, which means we can check out one of their experimental Lincoln Electric EV chargers. So let's go check it out. All right, So what we're looking at here is the brand new Lincoln Electric EV charging station. I believe they call it the Velion. I believe that's why that naming is right there and right there. Pretty sure. So you can see here we've got Harris Mason listed as the location. Plug, pay, and charge. Go ahead and see what's in the settings here. Maintenance and select language. So we're going to go ahead and exit that. This, as you can see by the sign here, is an experimental station. I actually really love this concept. It says Lincoln Electric, use of the charging station is at your own risk. By using the charging station, you agree that Lincoln Electric is not responsible for any loss, personal injury, accidents, damages, property, or person related to such use. Lincoln Electric is providing this charging station as a convenience for EV owners. Please see additional information below for terms of use. This charger provides subsidized charging costs. Do not leave the car plugged into the charger after session is complete. This charging station can be taken offline unexpectedly for upgrades. Suggestions for improvements and issues, they have a phone number and an email, which is super cool. So they have just a little on-site, somewhat temporary charger set up here, so they can get all kinds of data from all kinds of cars traveling through. In exchange, the EV owners get a reduced charging cost, knowing that, hey, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Also, I absolutely love this message they left on there. It just went away, but it said, check it on PlugShare. I'm guessing it's proximity-based because there's little sensors right there. So they really want people to talk about it and give their experience so that they can improve this potentially awesome future product. I believe, let's see if there's any information actually. There may not be. All right, well, I don't see any information here, so maybe we'll check the back of this charger. I believe this charger is designed such that you can have 2 cables on this unit. And there we go. 200 to 1000 VDC, 300 amps max input, 150 kilowatts max, with output being the same. So presumably, these are 300 amp cables? Because I think what they're trying to go for here is a 150 kilowatt charger that I think splits. So 75-75 if you have 2, 150 if you have 1, and then maybe 150-150 if you put another one of these cabinets here. Not totally sure. I like the unique look. The cable management solution seems pretty reasonable, although the cable is a bit short. I do like the status LED there, the green one. Lets people see from far away whether or not the station is charging. Again, these are, a lot of these things are features that you would expect of a charging station, but keeping in mind that this is an early testing product, it's good to see that they're taking note of the competition. All right, let's go ahead and snag the adapter here. We have our Electron CCS1, or yeah, CCS1 to NACS adapter, which honestly, I haven't really liked it that much. I think I might end up replacing this with an A to Z unit at some point, or if I can get one, an official Tesla adapter. But I don't know if they're still selling them or not, so I'll have to double check. Really don't like that broken off plastic there. It's a real bummer. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and grab this charging cable. Also, this right here, this is all metal. Well, that's plastic, but this is all metal. This is all metal. This feels very heavy duty. I like this. So let's go ahead and grab the charger. It's a REMA cable. So kind of information can we see on the underside here? Okay, REMA Rev C1 300C plus, 1000 VDC, 300 amps. I believe they make a variation of this. REMA makes a variation of this cable that supports 400 amp boost, 300 amp nominal, but I mean, when your charging station is only putting out 300 amps, this seems like a perfectly appropriately spec'd cable. So you can see here, the cable length, a little on the short side. That's it's about as tight as I would want to make it. So let me flip my hand here because this is a really awkward angle. I gotta actually turn it more. Okay, so now we have it. Oh yeah, there's no way I'm gonna one-hand this, not with that kind of cable. All right, we have it plugged in. Estimated charging cost, 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Tap your credit card. So I will do that. All right, it is authorizing the card. says thank you, approved. Let's see what happens up here on screen. We are validating the health of the charger. Yeah, so you can see here this was designed for multiple cables. This one is indicating in use. There's nothing here, so it just says CCS. Presumably the CCS text would be moved farther over if there were two handles here. Again, this is kind of an old school CCS, like box style enclosure, but this is great. This feels, from a tactile perspective, really nice to interact with. You can hear everything spinning up here. We have 30% state of charge. It's actually a really fun little indicator. I quite like this. Time elapsed 12 seconds, 111 kilowatts. So I'd be willing to bet that is 300 amps right there. But we have a way to confirm. Thinking of the wrong car. I gotta hold down the button in the Teslas. Type in service, hit OK. I'll fix that charging limit in a moment. High voltage charging, and we can see here 300 amps, so we are just maxing out the station. Actually, I'm just gonna do that just for now. I'll go ahead and change that in a little while. We will keep the climate control running. There we go. So now we have what looks like just the standby screen on the Velion Lincoln Electric charger. Seems pretty cool. I like the information here. You got 33%, super easy to understand how charged up the battery is with this kind of bar of color, and you have the time elapsed on the session, so you can see at a glance how long you've been here. I am not sure that would be the piece of information that I would put underneath percentage. I think given everything that's on here, I would either put power output or... Well, this one doesn't display time remaining. It would be interesting to see time remaining to 80% underneath the percentage, similar to Electrify America. But I think the percentage with the real-time power output would also be pretty cool to see. But I like what they're doing. I like that they are opening this charging station up to the public in order to get feedback and allow people to try out the charger and see if they like it, and let Lincoln Electric know if they think of an improvement. This is a very interesting and cool way of doing business in terms of product development, and really allowing the users to drive some of the development of what could potentially be deployed all across the country. The 300 amp limitation is a bit of a bummer. We're getting 112, 113 kilowatts, I believe, at this state of charge. But at the same time, if I were... I'm trying to think of, a good application for this. I think if I was stopping for a meal, for example, while I was on a road trip, this would be a perfect way to charge. You put one of these in the parking lot of a sit-down restaurant, you plug in the vehicle, you take off. If you have a slower charging car, it's probably going to take close to an hour in order to fully charge the vehicle. Now I know leaving the 80% is the preferred way to go, but if you're sitting down, you're already taking that time, you may as well let the vehicle charge up a bit. With a slower charging vehicle, you might be looking at an hour or upwards of an hour in order to get close to a full charge. And if you have a larger vehicle with a much larger battery, I'm thinking something like a Rivian, for example, where you have a 120, 140 kilowatt hour battery pack, then something like this is also not a huge deal. You've got 110, 112 kilowatts going in. If you roll in at, say, 10, 15% with a little bit of buffer to make it to the next charger if it's taken, then you can potentially leave your meal and be at 80% or so by the time you're ready to roll. Seems like a pretty good use of one of these chargers. Just a little 300 amp, 150 kilowatt station, not the highest power in the world, not 400 kilowatts, nothing crazy, but also much more potent than a level 2 charger or even a low power DC charger like a 40 or a 50 kilowatt charging station. All right, we are 6.5 minutes into our charging session, still pulling maximum 300 amps through the cables into the car. Right now, the station is the limitation, not the charge curve of the vehicle. We are at 45%, so we have onboarded 15% battery in what is nearly 7 minutes. So again, looking at that example that I was talking about of one of these chargers at a restaurant that you might stop at on a road trip, you know, if you are running in, using the restroom, leaving, right? Because you just have to stop somewhere, use the restroom. This is a pretty decent solution, right? You're not going to get a whole lot of power, but maybe enough to make it down to the next charger on the road. If you are running in, getting food to go, and getting out to your car, and, you know, eating as fast as you can and taking off again, you know, very quickly, then again, you might be getting 15, 20, 25%. That may not be enough to, you know, extend your leg of a road trip by hours, but it's certainly enough to give you more options, and more options is always great. All right, we are at 48% battery, and we are still just maxing out the charger, 112 kilowatts. I think we are about to come off the 300 amp limit there. We should be tapering down shortly, and it will start following the car's regular charge curve. There we go. 48%, almost 49%, and we just dipped down from 112 to 111 kilowatt, which means the car is now following its normal taper and actually reducing below 300 amps requested. That said, this was a pretty solid charging stop. So far, we are at 8.5, so probably in about 9 minutes, we will have reached 50%. So 9 minutes to add 20% battery to a Model 3. I mean, that's not class leading, right? That's roughly on par with what you might see from a version 2 supercharger if no one was charging next to you. But again, as a stop for people who are going into a store or some kind of you know, restaurant very quickly and just trying to get in and out quickly and get back on the road, a solution like this might be pretty reasonable. All right, here we are at 53%. You can see we have tapered down to 105 kilowatts. We've added 17 kilowatt hours from 30 to 53%. So let's go check out some more of the service mode data. And here we can see everything's working pretty much as expected. The battery is right in its favorite mid-50s Celsius temperature, and you can actually see min temp, max temp, 54, 55. I know this isn't 100% accurate. Sometimes there's a little more variance than it tells you, but that is a very evenly heated pack right now. This is a happy camper for sure. We're at 391 volts DC and taking 260 amps from the station. Not a super high power solution, but not every solution has to be super high power. Sometimes I'm not even going to call this medium power, because this is definitely faster than that. I say medium power is more in the 40 to 60 kilowatt hour range, but a high power solution can sometimes be just what you need. Not everybody has to have 400 kilowatt charging. Is it nice? Yes. Does it make great headlines? Of course. But 112, 125, 150 kilowatt charging, sometimes that's just all you need. All right, we have been hanging out at this charging station for about 16.5 minutes. We are up to 66% battery, still pulling 80 kilowatts, which is actually quite good. But there is another car charging, the Lucid Air you can see there on the right. And so I think we are going to be unplugging here when we hit 70%, probably in about 2 or 3 minutes. All right, we are at 69%, so we will be heading out here in just a moment. We've tapered down to 73 kilowatts, which is again the car. We had a pretty solid session from 30 all the way up to 48%. I wish I could have arrived lower, but even from 30, we got all the way up to 48% before the car started asking for less power than the charger could deliver. So now we are at 70%. 19 minutes, 20 seconds elapsed. So we're going to switch over to here and take a look at our stats. Almost 20 minutes. We've got just under 70 kilowatts going into the car, 32.75 kilowatt hours delivered with an estimated price of $3.18 because it's roughly 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So we're going to go ahead and end the session. Hit end session. Charge complete. Oh, cool. Session details. So we've got start 30 and 71, energy delivered, charging duration, and estimated charging cost. Good stuff. You can see it automatically let go, so we will back this out. All right, and there's all the details. We've got the charger back where it is. It says thank you, so let's get going. All right, guys, that was a super fascinating look at the Lincoln Electric 150 kilowatt charger, the Velion, I believe is what they call it. And with that, let's get out of the way so this Lucid Air can charge. Again, very cool that Lincoln Electric has actually put a charger out where the public can access it in order to gather more data and get public sentiment. And you know, it's really a great way to stress test your chargers. Just let people come out here and try to charge their vehicles and see how well the experience goes.